man. Always. Not as much as you.
But no,
I said, I need help, not as much as you.
I definitely
Poor thing.
2.5 weeks. So this is good. This is unbelievable. I've been better. How much
How's
better?
that going?
Any better? We're better.
It's a little
Good.
bit. But
You look
still,
like you
it
got
just-
some freedom.
I'm in severe pain.
Good.
I mean, if I walk,
Good.
I mean, if I'm in bed with my foot elevated and ice in my
That's
face.
crazy.
So I can-
Hey Stuart, could you have the air conditioner turned on, please?
Okay, good afternoon. Welcome to the Sugarland Development Corporation meeting for Tuesday, September 7th, 2021. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Is there any public comment?
No, ma'am.
Item number 4, minutes, consideration of an action on the minutes of the agenda of the August 3rd, 2021 meeting.
Second.
Okay, motion by Jacobson, second by McCutcheon. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item 5, budget. Consideration of an action on amending the fiscal year 2021 budget to projections, adoption of the proposed fiscal year 2022 budget, and a recommendation of the proposed fiscal year 2022 budget to the mayor and members of city council. Scott Butler, Director of Budget and Strategy.
Good evening. Okay, so I'm going to review the proposed FY21 budget amendment to projections in the FY22 budget. Just as a reminder, this is this will be the third time we've talked about this, so some of it's going to look familiar to you. Hopefully, we reviewed it with the full board on the 3rd at the 26th budget workshop. We reviewed it. So today we've got recommendations for approval, and then the next steps would be, it is included in the public hearing related to the budget for this evening, and then on the 21st is part of the budget approval process. So first, as far as the FY21 summary, you can see where we started the year with the FY21 budget and its projections. We're projected to end with a $1.9 million balance higher than what we budgeted, and that's due to better sales tax performance, and as well as a reduction to our expenditures for incentives. So the ending fund balance, where we had projected to dip into fund balance this year, it's actually going to grow to the $6.45 million. On the expenditure side, the FY21 projections leave the fund with a beginning fund balance of 11.4 million. We are projected to dip into that fund balance, which has been growing. In addition to regular program expenditures, including incentives, debt service, there's $2 million that's included in the budget for reserve for opportunity. It's anticipated that we will end with a fund balance of $5.49 million. You can see where that policy requirement is, which is 15% of the budgeted sales tax revenue, to be consistent with our financial management policies. And then we're $4.5 million above the policy. This is a 5-year forecast. We've called out 2 areas. First, FY23, we have planned expenditures for capital improvement projects of $4 million. So you can see the increase in expenditures there. And then in the out years, FY25 and 26, you'll see that we have a growing bond coverage ratio, and that's due to debt retirement on the town square infrastructure being paid off in FY25. So our bond coverage ratio is growing, which means we have opportunity for additional things down the road.
Scott, can I ask a question, please?
Certainly.
Are those the same capital improvement projects we've already talked to? Are they the same ones, or have they changed?
They are the same
Same
projects.
different. Okay.
Yeah, so the two CIP projects, the first one is the Owens Road Mobility Project. That's in cooperation with Fort Bend County. And then $2 million for the Brazos River Turnaround Roadway, which is in cooperation with TxDOT.
Thank you.
And those are the same. Certainly. So are there any questions on the SLDC budget in terms of the FY21 projection and then the FY22?
Would you do me a favor, please? Would you go back to the 5-year projections?
Sir.
So roughly 0.98 million, 908,000 is roughly what our requirement is.
15% of budgeted revenue, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so why are we cutting it so thin every year going forward?
That's based on the planned expenditures for the CIP. Everything else I think is trending as normal.
That, so with the corporation, a lot of the flexibility gets put into the reserve for opportunities. And so basically everything above policy gets swept up into that line.
Okay,
So we try not to leave a large amount below line above fund balance, policy requirements. That's why it's.
is that like a contra account or something? Is it?
No, it's shown as part of the budgeted expenditures. Scott, if you want to go back to the 22 budget, did you have it?
We don't have it. We don't have it
You don't
broken
have the
down in
detail broken
detail
out, but on
here.
the income statement, it's there.
Okay.
So there's 2 million in the reserve for opportunities within fiscal year 22. And then there's throughout the forecast, there's quite a bit that's set aside.
Nice.
So it's already incorporated into the expenditures.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Okay, thank you.
And then I think just the recommendations as far as approval for these items to move forward. Does that require a vote?
Motion to
Yes, I'm
approve.
looking at the attorney.
Is there a
yes.
motion to approve?
I think so, sorry.
Second.
Motion by McCutcheon, second by Watley.
Approving each of those items separately or all at once?
They probably need to be called out separately. or-
Okay, motion, you have a motion to approve the amending of the fiscal year 2021 budget to projections.
Yes, we do.
Okay, motion to approve the budget for fiscal year 2022 as proposed. Motion, okay, approved. Budget will be considered by city council for approval on September 7th. Okay.
So you're doing all one motion or you go through separate motions?
Okay. Separately or at one time?
You can vote all of them, you get one motion to approve those 3 things. And you have like have 3 to do the motion.
So I think, and I'm sorry, we just need the motion on the first 2 items. This is just to
Okay.
note that it'll be
Okay,
considered.
my
on the
motion,
budget.
my motion was for the first 2.
My second was for the first 2.
Okay, so motion to approve by McCutcheon on item 1 and 2. And second by Watley on items 1 and 2. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion, both motions pass.
I just want one.
Alrighty. Item number 6, workshop, review of and discussion on a proposal from Development Counselors International for the Office of Economic Development's fiscal year 2022 Integrated Marketing Program. Melissa Raju, Tourism and Visitor Services Manager, and Kat Saunders, DCI Senior Vice President, Client Strategy.
Perfect. I'm going to kick us off today. There we go. Okay, so good afternoon and thank you for your time. We are here today to workshop the next steps for our integrated marketing plan and discuss building off of the foundation laid over the last 2 years. As you might recall, we completed our new website in the spring of 2020, began our first year of foundational work with DCI in the fall of 2020, and then began the workforce and target industry analysis in the spring of 2021. So we're now prepared to move into our next year with DCI to leverage these building blocks and strategic decisions to further our position as an economic powerhouse. With that, I'm going to kick it off.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Before we discuss what's in store for year two, oh, I went too fast. Sorry about that. Before we discuss what's in store for year two, I will review what was contractually delivered and what was ultimately delivered in year one. To kick things off, DCI committed to completing a total of 3 to 4 virtual immersion tours, but completed a total of 12 virtual immersion tours to generate story ideas. And as proposed, after the virtual immersion tours, DCI committed to developing 3 to 5 pitch theme lines, but instead delivered a total of 8 detailed pitch theme lines to target niche economic media outlets. A great thing about the virtual immersion tours was that DCI was able to cultivate relationships with these local spokespeople, which helped us identify people if a media opportunity were to arise. DCI also committed to delivering a media list which covered local, regional, and national media targets. Next slide. As part of the virtual immersion tours, DCI ramped up proactive and reactive pitching. DCI committed to delivering a total of 5 to 7 national stories about Sugarland. So far, they have delivered a total of 3 national stories, as you can see on the screen. Currently, they are actively pitching a story about the diversity of Sugarland's restaurants and business community. I do want to focus on something here, as you can see on the screen, about the measuring media results. That's not actually a measured deliverable that we've asked DCI to provide, but I think it's worth mentioning that just these 3 stories itself generated a total of 48 million impressions and garnered almost 500,000 in ad value. Don't know what's happening there. To help us to continue to drive a positive conversation on social media, DCI committed to activating our Office of Economic Development Twitter account. As part of the contract, they committed to developing weekly social media content, and they also provided recommendations on how to increase our social engagement. Additionally, they provided content that could be shared across the Visit Sugarland Tourism brand social channels. And also, as of note, we have seen a significant increase in our engagement in our LinkedIn social account due to DCI's consistent engagement on the platform. And if you're curious, currently right now, we have approximately 750 followers on LinkedIn. So if you're not following us on LinkedIn, I strongly encourage you guys to do so. Part of building a firm foundation, we knew back in 2019 that we needed to create a digital advertising strategy. Therefore, DCI committed to helping us create the strategy. That strategy included activating a Google paid search campaign. As you can see here on the screen, some of the target industries that we were currently targeting are manufacturing and biotech. In addition to that, they have conducted a search engine optimization on our website to ensure that we are ensuring the best possible placement of major search engines based on keyword search. Additionally, to make this strategy work, they have to continuously optimize the website and our paid digital ads. Additionally, they are offering us a quarterly ad refresh. Why do they do this? Because they need to make sure that the ads are performing at their most optimal level. So one of the things we identified also before we went into contract with DCI, that there was also a need to develop a communication piece with our external stakeholders on timely news. DCI committed to developing a newsletter for the Office of Economic Development and committed to distributing a total of 2 to 3 newsletters a month, and so far have distributed a total of 32 e-newsletters that have been distributed. exceeding the initial expectation for this service. Additionally, DCI committed to conducting an initial audit of marketing collateral and committed to 50 hours of creative support. So far, DCI has delivered approximately 88 hours of creative support. Another DCI commitment that they promised the Office of Economic Development, was to provide a monthly report. This monthly report includes information on media results, digital ad conversions, social media performance, and e-newsletter performance. Additionally, they committed to providing client communications and counsel. What that looks like is they meet with us on a bi-monthly basis where we discuss the upcoming projects that we have as part of the scope of the contract. They have been incredibly great to work with. Anytime we have a request about any project, they respond almost immediately. And also just recently, there was an advertisement placement where we requested their counsel on, and it yielded positive results. And finally, DCI committed to arranging one-on-one virtual meetings with 3 to 5 selection consultants. So far, DCI has delivered 5 appointments. As you can see, the logos here on the right, those are the companies that we have forthcoming selection appointments. Currently on the docket for activation is the final deliverable of newsletters to site selectors. And with the exception of the service, all other key contractual services were delivered as expected. Additionally, it is important to note that for the first 3 months of this contract, DCI focused tremendously on the implementation of this Season Sweet Cash program, as you guys have heard about Sweet Cash. So if you really think about it, they've only had about 9 months to truly activate this contract, as I've outlined. I would like to note again that all the contractual services have been delivered. So I bring this original slide from when we reviewed the contract sometime last year of the $238,000 evenly split amongst the 4A and 4B corporations. We have expensed a total of $206,000 with a total of savings of $31,000 to date. As you can see, we have generated tremendous momentum creating the marketing foundation as part of the multi-tiered approach to fulfilling our vision of becoming an economic powerhouse. These deliverables will not only help us continue our marketing efforts for general Office of Economic Development accomplishments, but will also complement the forthcoming results of the Phase 1 workforce and target industry study. And now I will turn it over to Kat Saunders with DCI, who will focus on highlighting what we will be focusing on for year 2. Kat?
Thanks, Melissa. Everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Yep. Okay, great. So yes, this slide, please. So on top of the foundational program, we will now build on all the work that we've done, as well as the other research components that the Office of Economic Development has taken in. You know, the workforce study, target industry study. These are all things that kind of go into the arsenal to kind of advance your marketing, your integrated marketing plan. Our goal is to position Sugarland as the location of choice for business, talent, and visitors. Just in our recent meetings on the ground there, we did hear a lot about talent. And so, you know, part of the reason we tend to have a focus on both business and lifestyle media is because of that talent piece. The team at HCSS was very, very focused on us promoting those, you know, great place to live type stories to help their talent attraction campaign internally as well. Also just positioning it as a healthy economy, you know, recovering from the pandemic and open for business and willing to, you know, really dedicate resources to either creative funding mechanisms for economic development projects, but just really creating a local economy that's conducive for business attraction. And then also one thing that really stood out at the onset of COVID, and you know, I was really in the weeds on this with Devin Rodriguez, was, you know, we did not have things that we needed to have that in a digital format right away and quickly. So a lot of the things that we did quickly in part of our creative design hours from last year focused on that. But this year, we really want to get that digital front door established where we have industry one-pagers and other things online in a visual way or a downloadable way that will really help the entire economic development team do their job even better. Next slide, please. So just to give you some background, I tend to be the one who gets to participate in the meeting. So I've met most of you virtually before and some in person, but there's a whole entire team behind me. And some of you have met Darielle Curran, our Executive Vice President of Economic Development, as she launched the branding project with you several years ago. And then my entire team, Karina, Brooke, Max, you know, really focus on the public relations and marketing side. Terry works with the office to keep things moving from an administrative standpoint. We've got a design team that handles all the creative tweaks and the you know, advertising requests and things like that. And then Steve Duncan is really the brain power behind the paid campaign. You know, really, he's the one who's really created that program to focus in on manufacturing and life sciences, which is an area where we saw a lot of interest coming out of the pandemic and during the pandemic. So he's overseeing that entire strategy with support from his team, Brianna being one of those members, but there are many other people who touch the account behind the scenes. Next slide. So you can go to the next slide for our action plan for the next fiscal year. So with any media program, as you all are probably consumers of the media yourselves, you know that stories are changing daily, and the appetite for certain stories changes all the time. So we will continually refresh the storylines. This is something we do all the time. We'd like to see those press visits start again. There was really a reluctancy to travel during COVID by our business journalists. So we'd like to get that back in motion again and get people on the ground to see the product in person. We'll continue to optimize digital, which is, you know, when you do a website, it's not just you do the website and it's done. You have to constantly be feeding the website with new content, new things to talk about, and keep yourselves fresh. So we'll continue to make those recommendations from our SEO team. And then also we did an in-person visit just recently, and we will build off that. We made wonderful connections with people on the ground, particularly stakeholders in the community on both the business side and the public side. And we'll continue to develop more stories as a result of that. Next slide. We'll continue to maximize media. This is an area that's gotten excellent traction in the last few months. We really were finally able to get everyone kind of rallied around what we were doing and, you know, build on that foundation of the meetings virtually and in person. So we will continue with proactive and reactive pitching. We are constantly doing research about what either, you know, journalists want, what talent wants, what corporate site selectors want. So we'll continue to use that to shape our program. And we also share that with the Office of Economic Development team as part of our relationship together. We'll also work to amplify announcements. And this is something where the OED team really becomes a resource for local businesses. People are starting to share their expansion news with us and other press releases that they're working on. So we'll continue to amplify that and become an extension of those service teams at those companies and other areas. And also I mentioned coordinating the media visits again. Next slide, please. Our goal this year is really to up the national stories. We'll focus on 5 to 7 story results. That's for national. So we'll also constantly be having other different local, regional, you know, in-state, also specialized industry trades and things like that. But we really want to focus on some top tier results. Next slide. In addition to the site consultant outreach, you saw the one-on-one meetings that we've arranged for the team. We'll focus in on those industry one-pagers so that people, when they're meeting with their clients, they'll have things to share with them, and they'll have kind of a summary of, you know, what does life sciences look like in Sugarland, or what does manufacturing look like in Sugarland, and continue to make those one-on-one appointments. You know, there are some existing consultants that the team does have relationships with through their work, but we'll also continue to build that database of people who are working projects in Texas. Next slide. Continue to maximize the digital advertising. You know, this is an area that we are just seeing great performance in. We're able to track what the, you know, the path to purchase is really for our industry executives. And so we've designed a specialized campaign that focuses in on these elements, where we're using a lot of Google paid search. We were finding when people were searching for things, you know, Sugarland wasn't even on that first page of Google. We like to say, the second page of Google is where things go to die. So our goal is to continually be improving, advancing, being savvy about what people are searching. And this changes day to day. So we monitor this monthly and make updates to your paid campaign. And we use Google and LinkedIn right now. And again, this is something that's constantly being tweaked, as Melissa mentioned earlier about the quarterly refresh. Next slide, please. We're also using social media. You know, we had a previous question when I was in another meeting about, you know, the account followers, and what we really are trying to do is improve that social media presence for the Office of Economic Development. So we're focused on news that really centers around that business attraction and workforce attraction angle. So we're growing the accounts, we're engaging with content by other Sugarland stakeholders, we're making recommendations of other people to follow or engage with. We're showcasing a lot of achievements. And one of the nice things about social media is we're able to really amplify local news that we want without, you know, depending on media to do that. So we're using social media in that way to really get out that positive content and start to own and drive the content that people are seeing online. Next slide, please. Some of the things I wanted to call your attention to are the new parts of this program. So we'll continue to kind of keep this momentum going that we've had, but there's some things that really stand out between us and the team that we wanted to call out to you. So video content, the city has wonderful B-roll. It's in a lot of different places. Instead of reinventing the wheel, what we want to do is take all of that content and have an editor get on it and distill it into things that are digestible, either on social media or, you know, even within paid campaigns. We're using a lot of video there just because people are consuming content so voraciously. So we want to really use some of that existing material that your team has already paid for and get that into snippets that we can use effectively for this campaign. We'll also develop those one-pagers, you know, to focus in on life sciences, manufacturing, you know, all of the different things that we found during the pandemic we needed some quick information for. It's also a wonderful way to see conversions on the website. So we can actually see that people, you know, 28 people during the month of August downloaded the manufacturing one-pager off your website. So creating these things gives us a way, again, to engage with that customer. We'll also provide support for your RFI, RFQ, and RFPs. This was something that was also uncovered over the last year, is that when a massive, you know, when you're making the finals and you're in the top 3 for a pitch for a large project, we will provide support, whether that's creative support, development. We work with the Site Selectors Guild, so we know a lot about what corporate location executives are looking for. So we really work with the team to make those decks the most marketable that they can be. And another thing that we're adding is success stories. You know, we hear a lot about, oh, you've got to talk to this company, they're so great, or this entrepreneur, they're so wonderful, but they're not on your website, and they might not have a great website for economic development themselves. Their website's tailored toward their customers. So what we want to do is really create news stories that will live on your website in the success stories section, so that we can better tell those local success stories. I mean, there's so many and they just aren't marketed enough. So we really want to beef up that content. Next slide, please. The other additional expenses you see are additional costs you'll see is travel expenses are back in the budget. They were obviously taken out during COVID. Continuing to improve upon the marketing materials that the team needs to do their job, providing support to VSL as needed, and then also just general business development support, everything from exploring a site selection consultant event. Some of those events are taking place again, and consultants are willing to travel to visit sites or properties that might be up for relocation or expansion. So we've added those items back into the contract and also expanded on some of those other deliverables that were missing. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Kat. Once again, the contract is for a 12-month integrated marketing program with an overall cost of $361,540. The cost shared between 4A and 4B, which is broken down into 4A, we're asking 4A to pay up to $170,770 and 4B to pay up to $190,770. With 4B funding an additional $20K to support marketing activation for Sugarland's hospitality business community like hotels and destination venues. And the professional services, which would be paid on a monthly basis, is broken down on the left side, and the projected expenses is only paid as needed. Next slide, please. So the next steps, we brought the workshop to you guys. The next time we meet up with the SL4B will be on September 15th, and we're planning on hosting a joint SLDC and SL4B contract consideration on October 5th. Next slide, please. Any questions?
William?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm William. I'm late to this DCI thing. It's a lot of money. I don't know what I'm here to talk about, like what I'm allowed to ask or anything, but I mean, how do we, if you guys had not been working, would we see a different impact on our city right now socially? Our website, do you manage our website? Do you manage LinkedIn, Twitter? What platforms do you manage for us or set stories for? Where can we see evidence of the DCI impact? And what are we getting for our money? Because moving forward, that's a lot of money. And I just want to make sure if we're, directing money at this program that we can look right and go, without them, we wouldn't have this, whatever that is. That's sort of where I'm going because I've not been here long. So bear with me, please.
I totally understand those questions. So I will relay on to my assistant director to help me answer some of those questions.
Good afternoon, everybody. Teresa Price, Assistant Director of Economic Development. I oversee the tourism program and I work jointly with Melissa and Kat on this contract. It's a significant amount of investment. You're absolutely correct in that amount. And everything that we actually have outlined to you, what Melissa presented, is everything that DCI contributed on. We would have not gotten the national coverage that we've obtained. We would not have been able to activate a Twitter account. We would have not been able to actively engage their social media. We would have not been able to respond to some of the RFIs, RFP requests that we have had throughout this past year. We would have not been able to update our marketing collateral in a quick collaborative approach with in a pandemic situation. Some of the other things that are not referenced specifically in the contract is when we get media calls, the local or regional, DCI is our first point of contact, and we say, here's what the report is. How should we kind of position our office in order to ensure that we are consistently delivering the message of Sugarland as an economic powerhouse? And they work with us hand in hand to be able to deliver that message in essentially everything that we possibly do. So they do a tremendous amount of work. The slide that had all those individuals, that would cost us a tremendous amount more money on our end if we had to hire each of those individuals working specifically for our offices, or if we had to contract them specifically individually out, like a graphic artist or a digital strategist or a media strategist as well. But with DCI, we get all of that in-house. So it's a tremendous amount of effort that is done on our end to be able to, yet again, ensure that we have a voice at the table, that when people start talking about us, when people start looking for us, when somebody starts just Googling from California, best places in Texas to start a business, Sugarland is at the top of that scroll. And DCI helps us contribute to that.
I did a search while ago. May I continue? I did a search while ago and I can't find Sugarland anywhere on Google unless I write Sugarland. And maybe that's what I'm supposed to do, but what if I didn't know about Sugarland? And so when she just mentioned that, I'm tempted to go ahead and put that in because without saying Sugarland, I'm getting Galveston. I'm thinking, I know I'm better than Galveston. I know I'm better than all these other cities. I do. And so I'm like, how do I see the evidence?
May I ask, what are you typing in your search engine?
I literally wrote great cities in Texas, fun cities in Texas, great business cities in Texas. I just started writing a bunch and I couldn't find Sugarland anywhere on the responses until I wrote Sugarland and boom.
I will add, as part
Right.
of the digital advertising strategy, we're using specific keyword terms as far as like engineering in Sugarland, biotech in Sugarland.
Oh,
So
yeah.
when you type in those type of keyword searches on your search engine of choice, whether it's Google or Yahoo, those are the kind of responses you're going to get via Google. Now, that's a completely different strategy there
Right.
as far as like best places to live in Sugarland, aside from what we're focusing on.
I don't know, I think, maybe fun business and Sugarland might be a new keyword that we actually activate on there. Just food for thought.
And if I may, if I type the word Sugarland, I get Sugarland. I believe you. But when I'm just looking for a great city in Texas, I'm not getting Sugarland. I'm getting a lot of cities I don't want to go to.
Yep.
But I didn't
And
say
that's
them.
actually.
I want to go to Sugarland.
Yeah, I would just add that that's the part of the program. That was the problem. And so what this program does is start to provide ways to remedy that and fix that. And so we're constantly monitoring and updating. So what we found when we kicked off the digital strategy, I remember sitting on this call, Teresa was there, and Steve, our head of paid digital, said, nobody knows to search Sugarland, but we have a corporate executive looking for the Houston region. They know the Houston region. So you'll see in that ad, phase one of the paid strategy is to hone in on leveraging your location in the Houston MSA and building off that to insert the Sugarland name so that when people already have their mind set on the Houston region, they then they immediately associate with Sugarland over the others in the region. So there's some method to our madness behind doing that. And that it was on a call where we delivered that news. We were like, look, guys, no one's starting a manufacturing facility in Sugarland. Like they're just not searching that. So we have software where we monitor what people are looking for. And what we found, there was more search activity around Houston than there was, at all on Sugarland. So we are leveraging that and building off of ads that feed to customers looking for business opportunities in the Houston region and making sure that Sugarland is top of that list.
And you have to remember, from an economic development perspective, our job is to bring new employers to our community, to have jobs created in our community, to bring visitors to our community, to come bring their sales tax revenue here so that our residents, it's not just the same dollars that are recirculating all the time. We want people from outside of Sugarland, outside of Fort Bend County, outside of Houston to come to our community and spend their money here, to expand their businesses here, to relocate here. So it's a different messaging than, say, our communications department that's with the city, that's talking and focusing their messaging on our residents. We're focusing on outsiders and educating them that we exist. And to Teresa's point earlier, we're trying to take control of our story and tell our own story and put it in our words so that if we were to get some national attention, we're the ones leading that story and putting our messaging out there versus letting someone else tell our story for us.
Man,
Sure.
I don't want to monopolize. Okay. Hey, so and again, I just don't see evidence. I'm sure it's there. I'm the idiot in the room when it comes to social media. I just want you to know. But here's my question. So you talked about national stories that were done. I could have missed them. I try to read whatever I can about our great city. Where do I find those national stories that were written or pursued by DCI? Where, because
So-
that would be pretty cool.
Great question. So typically what we do in instances like that, we draft FYIs to communicate to the board members and council members of where they can find these stories. I don't know if you heard the story about the Reader's Digest, naming Sugarland one of the nicest places to live in America. That was a really big piece for us as well. Another story that came out that I didn't include here that they helped amplify was Sugarland named the most business savvy city in the country. That's just a couple of stories. The AC and council story was a byline that DCI drafted on behalf of Elizabeth to tell the story of how other communities could emulate, imitate what we did for Sweet Cash to help support our local businesses during the pandemic.
And where we share these platforms specifically, as Melissa said, is through FBYs, but to the general public, we share them on social media platforms. We reshare the stories. We post them on our website as in the press section as well. So they serve both multi-tiered purposes and multi-tiered platforms to be able to kind of consistently get to that top of that scroll that you just, when people Google as biotech, Hope Science comes up if somebody Googles Sugarland biotech story.
Yeah. And the other part of that too is just getting the traction in a year one campaign, identifying spokespeople, getting people's corporate comms department comfortable with us, making sure that people are starting to send their press releases to the team so that we can help amplify those messages. All of that buildup happens in year one. And, even when I was at the airport recently, she was like, now I get it. Yes, you can help us. So it's just, and we had met with the airport virtually, but kind of making all those pieces understand that we are an extension of the economic development team there. We've made tremendous progress. I feel very confident in national media relations, getting those top tier results moving forward because we've really identified who are good spokespeople. Not everyone's a good spokesperson for the city. So we've really had to identify who those people are and make sure that we've got good stories to tell in a very, competitive media landscape.
I'll also add to that is they deliver the 3 stories nationally, quite a few on the local level, but then we also try to work with a lot of our businesses and giving them the opportunity to be part of the story that they were working on with whatever media outlet. And time is of the essence with some of these stories. Some of our businesses couldn't get back fast enough, but they were so willing and so like, oh, I'm so sorry I missed the deadline, or please keep me in the loop on the next one. So they know of DCI, they know our intentions, they want to be in the press in a positive format, and being able to execute this contract will allow us to continue that. That's another deliverable.
Can I jump in?
Oh.
Can I Crayola this? Can I just Crayola this?
I need a big Crayola.
So I love you. I have a promotional products business. I'm in marketing. My son's SEO. I get this. I know it. I think the problem we're having is we have to explain this to our constituents who need sidewalks. And they're going, you're spending this on that, and we need a sidewalk. But we get this. We really do. We just have to explain it. So here's the deal. Here's the nutshell. How do we explain this to our constituents? This is more important than that. I know it's not the same fund. We all know that. Not everybody else will get that. So when we're looking at this, what business did you bring to us because of what you did? They don't care where you marketed it. They don't read that stuff. We don't even read that stuff. What business came in that paid for $361,000? What did you do that brought the ROI? Where did you make this money back? Period. Okay. That's all we need to explain to people. It's not that we don't want you, because I think we need you. How do we explain it and justify it?
So I'll kick it off in that our funds like these can only be used for economic
Right.
development efforts. If you are expecting us to come here year after year and say we landed these 3 companies because of this contract, that's not possible.
No.
It's very rare for us to be able
We
to do
know that our constituents need to understand where we're spending our money and why. It's just Crayola talk.
The bottom line is we're taking control of our own story. We're telling our own story and we're trying to recruit more people here.
I also think that a point to that is working in tandem with the Office of Communications here with the city. They're the lead on the residential communication to the constituents.
Right.
And we work alongside, Kat and Doug have become best buddies is what I call. Who's handling this reporter? Is this an eco dev or is this a city, more residential focus? So we work in tandem with them closely on that. And perhaps what we can look forward is to start building that narrative a little bit better for the constituents, so you have a better understanding of how you can communicate that message. But please know that we do work with our communications office hand in hand with this. We understand, who's ultimately responsible for delivering what service. Like all the things that DCI would do, our Office of Economic Development doesn't necessarily, our Office of Communication does not necessarily do, but they are the leading voice on the residential component. And so maybe we can work with Doug a little bit stronger, a little bit better to be able to outline that narrative better. Understand?
Carol?
I voted for Sugarland as the best city every single day in the Reader's Digest contest. By the way. I was just curious, Kat, who are the spokespeople that you've identified through the process?
Yeah, we have a list of that we keep, and we do this for all of our clients. We keep an ongoing list of who can, talk to press or who's good. So we've got, the mayor obviously is a good place to start, but then we've also got, the head of HCSS is totally on board, and I'm forgetting all the exact names at the moment, but the head of the airport and the airport operations team is willing and able. We had an excellent meeting with Hope Biosciences, and she is just a dynamo, like ready to go and willing to kind of wave that, flag for more life science and medical investment in Sugarland. We've got an excellent real estate team with the property, the Class A property that's over in, where is it? Where did we go? Yes. And so that real estate team is like ready to go, ready to talk, want to get people in that space. But we can also provide you the list of other people that have been identified. And obviously, Elizabeth is a big part of this story too. One of the things that we found in all of our work is that we've got to have strong public sector leadership. And also, a lot of other communities make economic development really complicated. And I think Texas in general, we know that Texas is more conducive to business and attracting business, but part of that is getting Elizabeth inserted into that mix and her entire team so that you're seen as a resource for business development. And I think that that's one of the things we've tried to do with some of her thought leadership, both through the American City and County piece that we placed for her, and also in social media posts that we do. So, that's a big part of this too, is making sure that your mayor and your director are elevated as strong public sector leaders, outside of the region.
Thank you.
I have a question. So on a day-to-day basis, how much do you interact with the staff of Sugarland?
A lot. All of us interact a lot. Actually, while I was on the phone, Karina, who was on there, was texting me about a press release that needs to get done and go out. So that's what I was glancing down at. So it's all day, every day. We're truly an extension of the team. We also have a SharePoint system where we have a cloud, some cloud software where we're all working in documents together, and it's a regular thing. And with the with the way the contract is structured, I've got to have different members of the team involved every day. It can't just be me. I need to have some of the more junior staff continuing to get that content developed. We're doing daily media monitoring. We get the releases from Doug's office, all that kind of stuff. So it's every day, all day.
Yes, it is. I can attest to that.
Any more questions from the board?
How about one more? Just one more. I'm trying to get caught up. I know. So in response to your comment about annually, expectations. I'm from a background of, I inspect what I expect, okay? This is an old rule that I learned years ago. So every year I do want to see, even though the money can only be spent here, and there, I want to know that we're spending it the right place based on our return. And I remember the years of mailers and stuff that we've done on a corporate level, and we would analyze those down to the 0.001 ROI. And I just want to know, because I don't yet, okay? I want to know that this money that can only be spent on this is with the right hands, not just because you're accustomed to taking their call or their emails. I want to know these people are producing. I don't know any of them, okay? And so I'm sitting here going, I don't see it. But it doesn't mean it's not right in front of me because I'm not looking, okay? I hope that helps.
I think what we should probably do is maybe send the presentation to y'all, because like the very beginning, all of those slides that Melissa was talking about was what was expected and then what they delivered. So we have, I think you said 3 to 5 media.
3 to 4 were committed, but there was a total of 12 virtual immersion tours. And part of this was just an opportunity for DCI to get to know these businesses and be able to generate those positive stories that we so want.
But there was also how many times we made it in the news. Like we had only anticipated a few number because we didn't know what the first year was going to be like. We were testing the waters. We're building that foundation. We're setting that foundation, letting it dry so that we can start building our house and start building our success stories. So that foundation is there. We went through COVID. We had lots of ups and downs and all arounds, and now we've got more certainty. They know us a lot better. We know us. And so like I've already told them, our next steps is really building off of what is about to come through Ernst & Young, our targeted industry and our workforce analysis. Those results are going to expedite, and we're going to be taking all of that and we're going to be putting it hard to work. We've got NAICS codes. We've got really specific information that's going to help us further refine our story and then go and further target the right businesses that are going to be the right fit for Sugarland. Because not every business is the right fit for Sugarland. Not every business, every industry is not the right fit. We want to find what that is and get them here.
Absolutely. This is one of the building blocks of our pursuit of excellence, or constant pursuit of becoming an economic powerhouse for our city. I mean, that's pretty much what it boils down to. And I hear you and I understand, the tangible, the piece, the one piece that we definitely need to see. So we will work on making sure that we give you more timely updates on those, and as they come available, we'll add those to the director's reports and our quarterly updates and the FYIs, and we'll consistently share those and add some of the narrative that Director Watley also mentioned as well.
Yeah, I would also add, just from some background, and for those of you who don't know us as well, is that DCI is, over 60 years old. We only focus on marketing places. We are hyper focused on placemaking. So we are constantly, analyzing, digesting, researching all these different parts of what is working in economic development marketing. That's all we do. I actually worked for DCI when I first moved to New York, and I left to go into corporate, and I worked in corporate, and I came back to DCI because I like the uniqueness and the specialty of really honing in on this. How do you market a place? You don't have anything to give away, right? It's not like marketing a widget. So we really are, it's a craft, and I feel very strongly about the level of service that we give our clients and the way that we bill and the integrity of our team, just in terms of being at a big global agency where I was before. I was at H&K, and, knowing that we added on hours every month and we were always out of scope. And, this is a true partnership, and we like to function that way. I actually like that I attend all of your meetings, because we find that we're more effective when we're more ingrained in the team. And the way that, Elizabeth, Teresa, Melissa have structured the way we work, we very much feel that we're able to do a great job with the Sugarland team. And I often will tell them that. I wish all of our clients were like you, but they're not. So, we feel very strongly about offering a specialized service in economic development marketing and placemaking, and that we are at the forefront of national and international trends in corporate relocation and expansion.
Jennifer, can I say something?
Yes.
This was presented to us in Sugarland 4B a few weeks ago. And honestly, I vomited all over the entire presentation. I thought I had lots of questions. Today's presentation was a heck of a lot better. That made me understand that what did we sign up for in 2020/2021 and what did we get? No one could answer that question for me last time. This was 2.5, 3 weeks ago. I want to commend the staff and DCI for doing a much better job to make me put at ease that I feel better spending this money and talking to my constituents that we're spending this money and this is what we're going to get. I think it's a lesson learned. This council is tough, that we're going to ask you some tough questions. However, what Suzanne said, are we going to get a report and what's going to happen? I'd love to see a quarterly report to City Council, not in an FYI. Got to get it to us in a better format, even if it's an SLDC type meeting, and give us some concrete information. What have we done over this past quarter? And what are we looking to do over the next quarter? So that way we feel more comfortable that the money is being spent properly, and it's allocated properly. And I just want to commend you all again. I'm saying it for the second time because I want to make sure you hear it. I was very, very tough. And for my fellow city council members, we didn't even vote at the Sugarland 4B. We had to table it because we had myself, Billy, Amy, we all had some tough questions, Suzanne and Carol. It was a long meeting, but I feel y'all have done a much better job helping me, at least, personally speaking, understand where the money went, what we did with it, what were the results, and what we can see on a go-forward basis. So thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
We actually had an emergency call that evening after the meeting where we went through all the questions and made sure that we captured all the questions that came up. So I definitely appreciate that.
Thank you. Let's go ahead and if you could get the report, the slide presentation to all of us from the meeting, and we'll move on to, if there aren't any more questions, we'll move on to the next item. Item 7, quarterly report, review of and discussion on fiscal year 2021 third quarter report.
Howdy everyone, John Soriano, Economic Development. This presentation will feature highlights from the Sugarland Development Corporation FY21 Q3 report, which covers April through June of this fiscal year. This full report can be found on your desk and will be sent electronically to you later this week. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. For the city's sales tax performance and financial performance, please see page 6. Overall sales tax has been doing really great this year, and it has bounced back from last year. For example, total sales tax collection year to date for Q3 showed great results. For the year ending in Q3, the city accumulated approximately $7.7 million in additional sales tax revenue over the budgeted amount. For full financials, you can see the report, and feel free to email us if you have any questions as well. Next slide, please. Let's talk business development. I'll briefly go over the Q3 metrics for our office, industrial, and retail markets, as well as other business development updates. Next slide, please. Let's talk office market. Office vacancy in Q3 increased slightly from last quarter to 15.9%, which is 2.1% higher than last quarter. A continued increase in office vacancy was expected, but staff has been responsive to every office-related lead received and is actively working with the broker community to activate our spaces. The business development division has been communicating with our leasing agents as well. We've responded to a few office-related proposals in this quarter. This increase in office vacancy might seem alarming, but it has been seen as a trend in other cities in our MSA as well. It has been an ongoing pandemic trend. Next slide, please. Let's talk industrial market. Our industrial vacancy increased last quarter. Some of this was due to our newly constructed square footage coming from space such as Sugarland Crossroads, which was about 320 7K square feet. However, the vacancy rate for our industrial space remains low at about 6%. An existing trend of increased demand for this industrial space continues throughout the pandemic. One other update too is a new 320K square foot industrial development by Lovitt Industrial LLC at 500 Industrial Boulevard is expected to be completed this fall. Half of the building is already leased to Boise Cascade as a part of an expansion of their business line. Staff remains very focused on how to best utilize our space in our business park, which is very popular. Next slide, please. Let's talk our retail market. Retail vacancy actually decreased very slightly at 0.1% and is now at 6.9%. As for retail trends, the vacancy rate for retail has decreased from 7.4% since the fall of 2020, which could signal retail recovery in our area. Market rates for retail space have also been trending up, further signifying some kind of increase in demand. Next slide, please. As for our updates in tourism, occupancy percent in our hotels have increased to 60.4%, which is significantly higher than the same quarter last year, when heavy travel restrictions and lockdowns were in place. The increase in occupancy rates, average daily rates, and revenue per available room is really good news for our hotel and tourism industry. Tourism revenues remain lower than budgeted due to the anticipated decline in hot taxes, but our hotels have been seeing an increase in demand for future years. Long story short, we still have a ways to go to get back to pre-pandemic figures, but we're recovering. Next slide. Let's talk marketing. In Q3, staff temporarily pivoted our traditional in-person annual leadership and legacy lunch into a virtual campaign called Sugarland Strong. The purpose of this campaign was to highlight our businesses in the community that exemplify the diversity and quality of Sugarland. During this quarter, staff worked on 5 videos highlighting businesses within our various industry clusters, such as primary employers, small businesses, restaurants, and hospitals. These videos were released on economic development social media platforms in late May, and the link to see these videos can be found on our social media channels, website, and in the report. The video series highlighted multiple Sugarland businesses like Live Oak Grill, Blendon, Coffee Club, Sweet Petite, Keepers, Beyond International, Pink Zebra, House of Blooms, HESS, University of Houston, Memorial Hermann, Champion X, Houston Methodist, and Memorial Hermann. Long list of businesses, lots of businesses. We've gotten a lot of exceptional footage. We got to share it with the public. And we received an increase in LinkedIn followers as a result of the campaign and garnered hundreds of impressions from these videos. Next slide, please. Finally, I will review the efforts of our marketing strategy with DCI in this quarter. We were mentioned in a variety of magazines and news sources, as mentioned before, and as you can see in this page, one of the biggest being Reader's Digest, as mentioned before. And that had 12.5 million impressions. We will have to wait until October to hear the results of this vote. As for other news highlights in Q3, which are found at the end of the report, Sugarland Town Square welcomed a new contemporary art museum called Art Museum Texas, featuring artists from Sugarland, Fort Bend County, and beyond. This project was partially funded by the All In for SLTX placemaking program, and the museum has seen a lot of visitation and rotating art since it's opened. Hope Biosciences stem cell treatment has showed promising results for Parkinson's patients. Champion X expanded their corrosion laboratory. Accretive Packaging announced its 4th expansion in the business park, which the city is supporting through an abatement. And then finally, new retail includes a long list, including but not limited to Bearded Papas, Euro King, Service King, Manal Sweets, Sozo, Japanese Steakhouse, Little Joy Snacks, and more. And so for details on these news articles and other sections of the reports, see the full report, which will be sent electronically to you later this week. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Any questions from the board?
So speaking of a quarterly report, we actually beefed up the information from DCI in this report. So we will make sure if you have more questions after reviewing it further, let us know.
Any other questions from the board?
No.
Okay, item 8, Director's Report, Elizabeth Huff.
Okay, I will make this really quick. We do have our targeted industry and workforce analysis results that are wrapping up. We will be bringing that to y'all in October, but wanted to give y'all some really quick fun facts. Just in case you didn't know, we've got over 500,000 workers with bachelor's degrees or higher within a 30-minute drive. In the last 5 years, our employment base grew by 14.4%. And then that when our population only grew by 1.5. So that is great news and exciting information. So just a little teaser for you for what's coming. And then as we have mentioned, the site selector meetings, we have conducted those over the last few weeks. And then, so as I mentioned before, the industrial was gaining momentum before COVID, and it has continued to gain momentum. More and more of our leads are very focused on industrial. Some of our office clients are taking advantage of the time to get more favorable leases, and office clients are still interested in open concepts despite the pandemic, which was a little bit of a surprise for us. But and then we've also received compliments from our site selectors on the usability of our website, notably the GIS tool, incentive breakdown, and employer presence. So just a few little tidbits for y'all. We'll make sure to continue to add more marketing information in the director reports as well as in the quarterly reports. But with that, I'm done. We'll see you later.
Okay,
Thank you.
motion. Thank you, Elizabeth. Motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn. So moved.
Got a meeting.